You all ready, Melly? I call to order the City Council meeting of July 26, 2017. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight that will be led by Hunter Robinson from Troop 1833.
Would the audience please rise? Repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
Thank you very much, Hunter. As a point of personal privilege, I'm going to move a couple of the items. Item 8B will be heard first, and then item 8C will be heard second to accommodate further action in the meeting. So we will move immediately to item 8B, discussion and possible action regarding 17-152, confirming the appointment of Russell D. Wall as Assistant City Manager. Councilmember Burton.
So moved.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Second, with clarification that the motion is to approve Resolution 17-152.
That'd be correct.
I keep that second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Burton, a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion? See none, let's vote.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes?
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Newton.
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
We can officially do both and then do the swearing in after.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 8C, discussion and possible action regarding 17-153, confirming the appointment of David R. Bricky as interim city manager. Councilmember McConaughey.
Quick clarification. On the agenda it says 153, but on the attachment it says 151.
Oh, it's 153.
Okay. In that case, I'd move to approve Resolution 17-153, confirming the appointment of David Bricky as interim city manager.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion to the motion. See none, let's vote.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Newton.
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Will the council step down and our city clerk will administer the oath of office? We now have item 3A, an annual update from Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District.
If you want,
Please.
I'll introduce him if you'd like.
Oh, please. Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you. Tonight, the legislature, well, let's start with that. This year, the legislature changed the requirements of conservancy districts to provide an annual report. But they changed it for next year. So the conservancy district here locally decided to take upon ourselves to just do a trial run. And this will basically be the requirement from years moving forward. So an annual update tonight, we have David Martin, CFO and Treasurer from the Conservancy District, and he's got a short presentation to share with us.
Thank you, Chad. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. As Chad mentioned, we'll be making an annual report. It's in years where our district raises property taxes. And so this review that I'll go over tonight is specifically regarding a tax rate increase that Jordan Valley Water is considering. And I've handed out a summary page to you, which summarizes the things I'll talk about. As you know, Jordan Valley is mostly a wholesaler. We deliver wholesale contract water to the city of West Jordan, 17 other wholesale member agencies, as well as a small retail area. We have a few ongoing projects I thought I'd highlight since we're in the process of constructing a pipeline on 118 South out west that will serve western areas of West Jordan. That's a $12 million project. And in a year and a half, we have another $12 million project for a pipeline on 102 South with a pump station that will get water out to even further west in your city. So those are some of the projects that we have going. And so the property tax that I'll talk about is a piece of our financial plan. We obviously charge water rates, which is the bulk of our revenue. 24% of our revenue comes from property taxes. And so since this is a year where our certified tax rate, the certified tax rate came in at 0.00349. What we usually do when it drops below about that point is we hold a truth and taxation hearing and raise it up to 0.004, and that's the proposed rate. The public hearing for our tax rate increase will be held August 9th, 6 p.m. at our headquarters. And the property tax increase, the dollar amount to Jordan Valley is $1.9 million, and it's about a 14.5% increase in the tax rate. However, I've estimated a resident that the tax increase, which is about $8, it's about a 1.5% increase to their water cost. But I'm here to present the details behind our tax increase. Projects that the taxes help fund are development of new water. We have the Central Water Project from the Central Utah Water Conservancy District. That was a $35 million or a $68 million project. We still owe $35 million on that project. And the Provo Reservoir Enclosure Project, which will eventually bring more water into Salt Lake County, we owe $28 million more on that project. So the property taxes is an important part of our financial plan that then helps fund future water projects for future growth in the city and in our service area. That's my presentation. If you have any questions, I could answer.
Questions from council? Thank you, David.
Thank you.
We'll move now to communications. We're going to do it a little different again tonight. We're going to begin with the council and then move to the staff. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the council and the public for being accommodating with me tonight. Number of items to report. I'm going to keep my comments relatively short and sweet. The most important one to me is this one up on the screen. My wife had 2 little babies yesterday. Baby A is on the right and baby B is on the left. We're still trying to figure out names. Baby A, the one on the right, was born yesterday at 1:10 p.m., came in weighing 4 pounds, 13 ounces, and he's 16 and a half inches long. Baby B, this is the one on the left, he came in 4 minutes behind his brother at 1:14 p.m., weighing 6 pounds, 2 inches, and 18 and a half inches long. So that's the biggest thing that I wanted to report tonight. And also ask that the council excuse me. I'm going to be getting back to be with my family. I thought it was important to be here tonight because I wanted to make sure that it was known publicly that I very much support the changes that have been made to the city administration, appointing Dave Bricky as interim city manager and Russ Wall as deputy city manager. I thought that was significant enough and important enough to step away from these 2 little angels just for a few minutes. So if you'll please excuse the dress, this is my reason. So thank you very much, Mayor. I'll go ahead and step out. And again, thank you for being flexible with me this evening. Thank you.
Congratulations from everyone here. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, and congratulations, Councilman McConaughey, and to your wife. We're glad all's going well. And I extend a welcome to Russ Wall. There he is. He was hiding behind the monitor. Welcome aboard. We look forward to some great accomplishments with you. And congratulations to David Bricky. Now you get more to do. Thank you for accepting that assignment. As you may know, there was a great rainstorm last night, and when I heard the storm, I guess actually it was this morning, but then when I heard the news of the storm, they were talking about all these communities that were having problems. Good news is I didn't hear any problems in West Jordan. So I'm hoping that that was true, and if that is true, that's because we have a great public works department that do work ahead of times, so when these storms come, the storms can come and go, and we can just sleep right through them. So I'm hoping you slept through them as well. I'd like to welcome those scouts who are here with us. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoy your visit, and feel free to come again. And that's all I have for today, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Newton.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you. Just briefly, Councilmember Anderson has asked for a request, and I'm more than willing to oblige the request. I just wanted to see if the council was okay with that. The Sustainability Committee, I have been the council liaison of the committee, and he has an interest in it and has served on it before and would like to serve in that capacity if the council would be willing to allow that change.
Anyone opposed? We can make that change.
And the second one would be, he also approached me on that. It's a capacity that literally for me has been honorary because I've never been called to do the duty. He's asked also if he could participate as the alternate COG member. In my history, I've never been called by either the mayor or Dirk Burton to represent them. Oh, it's you now, that's right. So I have never been called to fulfill that responsibility, so it's more honorary, but Alan's also asked for that, and I wanted to see if the council would be amenable to that change.
Anyone opposed? We'll make that change.
Awesome. Now, because, it sounds like it's like all of a sudden I'm just leaving everything, but I still serve a lot. I do the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy, still doing the sister cities. Historic preservation, it's still kind of there. We still have the Town Center Committee, the Jordan River Project, the Town Center Project. The list just go on. But anyway, Alan had expressed a really strong interest in these, and I'm more than happy to let him serve in those. So thank you very much, and I'm sure you will enjoy them both. Thank you.
Councilmember Jacob.
I just wanted to welcome our new administration as well. Congratulations to Deputy City Manager Wall, and condolences to Interim City Manager Mr. Bricky. Just kidding. I very much appreciate your willingness to step up and help us through the next few months until we get a suitable permanent replacement. So thank you. That's all.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a few things. Number one, I know he's not here, but wanted to congratulate the McConaughey's for their 2 new additions. Also want to thank welcome Russ Wall. I used to work with him when I was at a neighboring Chamber of Commerce, and we've got a great deputy city manager, and I'm looking forward to work with you, and also continue to work with Mr. Bricky, who's kind of a dual role person now as a city attorney and interim city manager. Also want to thank the efforts of the fire department, the police department for the July 24th. I know we had rain and such, but I also wanted to tie in just a similar experience that they had on the 4th of July. We attended fireworks with my brother-in-law down in Lehigh. They live in a cul-de-sac, and all the neighbors gathered around. And just to show how crazy fireworks can be sometimes. We had probably 50 people in the circle. We're on the lawn, and they lit one of the cakes of fireworks, and the very first firework shot out of the bottom. There were not bricks on it to hold it down. It shot off the bottom and tipped over. And then about the next 2 or 3 fireworks went into a neighbor's garage and blew up in there. And then there's 2 that came over to where we were sitting and blew up on some blankets that we were sitting on. And you know, these things, we don't know how they're packaged. We kind of controlled explosions. But that was just a personal experience, and in talking with Chief McElreath, that was a similar cause when the 3 vehicles on the 4th of July caught on fire, as a brick shot out the bottom, tipped over, and shot a bunch of fireworks towards some cars. So I'm appreciative that although we did ban the aerials, that we did find alternative locations at city parks where folks could launch them, and I'll let the chief give that report when it's time, but just wanted to share that, to just be mindful of fireworks. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy City Manager, do you have anything tonight?
I'm drinking through a fire hose, Mayor, so I don't have anything yet other than I appreciate the opportunity and the confidence that the council has in me, and I'm just in a very short time I've had to work with David. I think it's going to be a great team, and we should be able to get a lot of good things done. Thank you.
Interim City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for this opportunity. I look forward to working with all of you and the department heads, and we got a lot of work ahead of us in the next 6 months, and it's going to be fun, challenging. Hope I don't disappoint you or the public. Thank you.
Scott Langford.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Just to make you aware, this past week, Larry Gardner was officially promoted to city planner, and he's not here tonight, but just wanted to make you aware of that. And I know that he'll continue to serve this community very well. He's well suited for the job, and I look forward to him taking that role. Thank you.
Thanks. Brian Clegg?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Bill Piper?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Wendell Rigby?
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Chief McElreath?
A couple things, Mayor. First, we have one more day of fireworks that's legal, and life will be much better. But let me talk about the 24th. As you know, we had a meeting here on Friday about 2 weeks ago, and made some changes for the 24th, and I sent you all an after-action report that was compiled by Deputy Chief Sharman. If you had a chance to review that, I just want to go over some of the highlights and thank some folks too. Chief Diamond will speak as far as the enforcement side and what went on there, but for us, we had 0 fire calls. We didn't squirt any water to put any type of fire out on the 24th. We did have 21 calls, 17 of those were medical, 4 were fire-related calls, but they were alarm drops, citizens assist, those kind of things, not related to fireworks. The events that we done on the 24th with the 2 ball fields and asking the public there to take their fireworks there, in the very short amount of time that we had to put that event together, I think it went off well. As some of folks I've talked to, they seem to enjoy that. We also had some help by Mother Nature. The rain came in just about the right time. So overall, I think we accomplished what we wanted to do, is not repeat July the 4th, and we didn't do that on the 24th. Also, I would just like to think that some other departments that, without their help, we could not have pulled off what we did on the 24th, and that is the police department, our legal department, our event staff, Kim Wells, and helping get out the message to the media, and also our code enforcement who helped out on enforcements. And then mostly thanks to our citizenry for recognizing the fire dangers that we had and using fireworks smartly and safely. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Diamond?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Following up on Chief McElroy's report, we had 6 teams of officer and a firefighter out on the 24th for enforcement actions. We had 36 citizen contacts. We did seize about 20 2-inch mortars that were illegal. No citations were issued on any of those contacts. They were mostly very cooperative and understood why we were out there and what we were doing and educated the public. So we're very thankful for that. On another note, we have graduating from the academy 2 officers, Officer Curtis and Officer Bessendorfer, who will be graduating from the academy, police academy, on next Thursday, the 3rd of August, and that starts at 10:30 a.m. Over at the academy at the Larry H. Miller campus of the Salt Lake Community College. So if any of you would like to attend, you're more than welcome to be there and attend. And that will help our numbers as we get them into training. We also have 7 people that will be starting the academy on August 7th. And so we're trying to fill those vacancies that we have as quickly as possible, and also the additional positions that the council approved, and we thank you for that. So, and that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to citizens' comments. I have 2 signed up to speak tonight. We'll start with them first. Alexandra Efremo.
Mayor and Council, I'm going to do something a little different. You know, I never knew the first part of God Bless America. God Bless America was written by Irving Berlin, 1918, revised 1938. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. I never knew the first verse of that, and I just thought it was really special. But anyway, I am very disappointed in some of the remarks that were made at the candidate night up at Mountain, at the Mountain Place. The candidates, the majority of you all were complaining about economic development. We need more economic development, more. Okay, the state, you people, we've done so much here. Mayor Rolfe, when we tried to get Facebook in here, he did so much with the governor and with all the entities to try to get it here. Offered Facebook $247 million. In New York, for 10 years, they said any business can come, no taxes for 10 years. And one of the candidates said, well, you know, I don't know why businesses aren't coming here. You cannot put a gun to a business and say, you will come to West Jordan. You know, none of you ever came to talk to, not that I was there, to Mayor McAdams to talk him out of that one vote that we could have gotten Facebook here. Facebook would have been awesome here. None of you were there. None of you came to the department, to Utah Department of education when they voted us down again. So for all of you to say we need economic development, you have to get out there, folks. You have to get out there. And you cannot put a gun to somebody and say, you will come here. It's nice to try to get businesses here, but I was really disappointed. And I was disappointed of one of our candidates. Every time a question came up, my name is Dear Burton, I'm running for mayor 10 times. I thought if I was going to hear it one more time, I was going to throw up. We need a child for the mayor. Thank you.
Steve Jones.
Mayor, Council, Steve Jones, I live at 3234 West, 6920 South. Couple of things I have tonight. One is the issue of electronic participation in these city council meetings. Greatly disappointed in the council. I have an elected official. The state of Utah has requirements to be declared a resident, and as long as the council member fulfills that, then I think he ought to be able to be here and represent me. So I have a real problem with ignoring that. The second thing has to do with, and it has nothing personal, but Utah has an Open and Public Meeting Act. And in that, it says in the very first part of 52.4205, it says a closed meeting described under section 52.4204 may only be held for A, exempt as provided in subsection 3, discussion of character and professional competence and physical and mental health of an individual. There was also in the Utah Municipal, I can't even say it, Attorney Association, in a conference in 2016, it talks very much, in my mind, about this, and it has a couple interesting cases. One of them is Kearns Tribune Corporation versus Salt Lake County Commission. And in part, it says, as a result, we interpret the Utah Open and Public Meeting Act broadly to further the declared statutory purpose of openness. Because this construes the act broadly, it therefore follows exemption exemption be strictly construed. In this case, we construe the litigation exemption narrowly as far as to give effective to the legislative intent. What's happened with our appointing of a deputy city council or city manager, I think it was very evident tonight by the fact that nameplates were in place and the way that it was done before I had a chance to even voice on it. In this section here, it talks about you can discuss, you have to discuss a person behind closed doors, but the evidentiary, the findings of that individual, the initial interview is public record. And so I object to the fact that what was done tonight was done behind basically closed doors. It was evident that all the decisions were long before made, before they ever reached here. And I basically think that's wrong. And thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak during citizens' comments? For the record, make sure you state your name and address.
Jay Thomas, 1348 West Barton Hollow Drive. I just wanted to make sure that the council and the staff is aware of some of the issues that have been going on with the Colosimo project. Last week, as I was driving by, I noticed that there was several pieces of heavy-duty equipment that was sunk into the ground. And I just want to know how the city is going to monitor that. Again, that's some of our fears as a community, as far as if you've got a couple of pieces of heavy pieces of equipment, a couple track hoes and a dump truck, how's that going to support a 5-story building? That weighs a heck of a lot more than the pieces of construction equipment. And that was only on the second day that they were actually starting to excavate. So I just wanted to get feedback from city staff and the council on how are we going to monitor that and make sure that we do build a safe building and it doesn't end up down at the Jordan River. So that's a major concern I have, and a bunch of my neighbors have that same concern. So I want to vocalize that to you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Craig Deering. I reside at 8717 South Royal Crest Drive, West Jordan, Utah. And first of all, I think these aisles are too narrow. Two guys can't get through without sliding to the side. I think it's Jay's fault. Let me just say that there's a reason I wanted to stand up, but I want to state something else first. And this is not at all personal with the fellow that's involved. He's a good man, and I count him as a friend. But for many years in West Jordan, we've had people have to leave for their job. Have changed them, or they moved for whatever reason. They did, in my mind, the right thing and resign and move. I agree with your stance on not allowing someone to just come in on a, what do you call it? Anyway, on the video and audio. I think that if I'd known that the citizens of West Jordan would agree to that, I would have ran for office, and after a few months moved to Escalante or somewhere and enjoyed the rest of my life, and still been able to receive a nice salary and benefits on the backs of the citizens of West Jordan. That's my comment on that. I'd like to just welcome Russ Wall here to our city as our deputy manager. I think he'll do a wonderful job. And also Dave Brickey, you'll do an excellent job as our interim city manager. And it'll give you an opportunity to see what it's like in those shoes. I think that the way it was, that has been done is good, and not a knee-jerk reaction, but a thoughtful program between now and next January. Give you time to find someone that's going to represent all the citizens of West Jordan, work well with each of you and staff and citizens, someone that will be accessible to our citizenry. I thank you guys for the atmosphere we've had the last few meetings. I think it's been much better. I don't know what it is, but please continue doing that. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Dustin Carr, address 8336 South, 1850 West. And thank you all for this time tonight. And I just briefly wanted to state that as a citizen of this community, I directly oppose any kind of increase to the taxes or utility rates. There are many different reasons that we can go on and discuss these things, but I think I essentially just want to leave you with the principle in mind that there are many other methods, be cost-cutting methods or renegotiations that can all take place before raising any kind of taxes or utility rates for any kind of projects that come up, and that those increases should always be considered a last reserve in any case. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will close the citizens' comments portion of the agenda, and we'll move to the consent calendar. Councilmember Burton.
I move to approve the consent calendar along with the changes that are listed under 6B.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Burton, a second by Councilmember Newton. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Burton.
I just want to mention so that the public knows, I don't know if they have that, but on 6B, we just took one line off that, and that line said, and I'll read that to you just a second, which will not be on there anymore. It says, in this regard, the City Council finds that incidental growth of weeds at the ends of planted rows or crops is an unavoidable condition in agriculture. Everything remains the same. That one line is now missing. Thank you.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Newton.
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember sorry, he's not here. Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
Item 7A, public hearing item. Receive public input regarding the issuance and sale of city water revenue bonds for the purpose of financing the acquisition and construction of improvements to the water system and related improvements, funding any debt service reserve funds as necessary, and paying costs of issuance of Series 2017A bonds. Bill Piper.
Thanks, Mayor. Tonight, we've got the public hearing on the proposed issuance of and sale of water revenue bonds for the city of West Jordan. As you recall, the parameters resolution prepared by Bond Counsel, Farnsworth Johnson, PLLC, authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $10,150,000 of water revenue bonds was passed on June 28, 2017. So we can begin the bonding process. These bonds would be issued so that the city can construct 2 water storage tanks and purchase property for a third. And so these Series 2017A bonds will be used to finance the acquisition and construction of the improvements, the funding of any debt service funds, and paying cost of issuance of the Series 2017A bonds. We have City Treasurer Dave Zobel here that can answer specific questions regarding this issuance. Thank you.
Questions from council? I will now open the public hearing for item 7A. If you're here to speak on this item, now would be the opportunity. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and return to the council for discussion or motion. Oh, we don't need. We don't need a motion to move, okay. We will move to item 7B, public hearing item. Receive public input regarding resolution 17-150 regarding the previous year's unused funding recommendations for the fiscal year 2017-2018 43rd Community Block Grant and Home Program. Chuck Tarver.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have 2 quick public hearings tonight. One covers the past unused funds, and one will cover actually the increase in funding for the upcoming year. The reason that we are required to have a public hearing for program amendments is to show where we transfer money from previous years which were unutilized by agencies, and allow for citizen comments before we move forward and designate a new project for it. Some of the funds that we've had left over in the past years have included some emergency home repair funds from Valley Services, Sandy Counseling for counseling services, economic development for funding that we've not used in the past,
along with contingency funds and some actual administration funds. Total of these funds that we want to transfer from previous programs, $68,500. And what staff is proposing is that we transfer the funds into the construction of ADA ramps, along with the street department and public works department here at West Jordan, to allow us to continue working with them hand in hand. Currently, during the previous year and into this year, we're working with the Public Works Department and Wendell and them on we allocated $300,000 into ADA ramps. And what this does is allow Public Works to take that $300,000 out of their budget and expand the road overlay program. With us coming in, they don't have to spend it on ADA ramps. So what the proposal is to utilize these funds for future ADA ramp projects.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. So this $68,500 will go in to reduce how much money comes out of Public Works to pay for the ADA ramps that already planned to get done. Did I get that correct?
You know, yeah, like for example, if Public Works has a $500,000 budget to do street overlays, and in that budget, they budget $200,000 for ADA ramps. Well, if we can come in with the $68,500, like we did with the $300,000 in previous years, that allows them to spend that extra money on the actual street overlays. So basically what we're doing is giving them an increase on that budget of $68,500 that they can put into asphalt.
Okay, so this money goes for ADA ramps, and they take the same amount of money they budget for ADA ramps and puts it to street overlays. Did I get that correct?
Correct. What they're required in Public Works and street improvements, and if I get this wrong, Wendell, correct me here, but when they do on street overlays and on street projects, they're required to come in and make sure the curb cuts are in compliance. And the compliance with the curb cuts, ADA ramps change about every 3 to 5 years. So if you've done some previously, suddenly they're out of compliance once again. And the city has a lot of streets and intersections where there never were curb cuts, or they put a lot of rolled curbs, which are probably the worst thing in the world as far as handicap access. So that's what we do. We work with Public Works to expand their street overlay program.
Thank you.
And any of these funds, we can come back in the future, like with economic development or some of the other services, if we want to program future money into those activities, we can do that out of future funds also. HUD don't like us to have the funds sit there in excess 2 to 3 to 4 years. They are pretty critical of us when that happens.
Thanks, Chuck.
Okay, thanks,
Stick
Mayor.
close. You'll
Yes,
get next again.
be right here.
I will now open the public hearing for item 7B. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? Now is the opportunity. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing for item 7B and return to the council. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. This money that we're doing, putting it over to ADA ramps, I think is a smart thing to do, put into ADA ramps. But I don't like the idea we're pulling out of ADA ramps the same quantity amount of money and putting it into street overlays, which is good, helps the overlays. But since this money comes from, is for these specific purposes, and ADA fits into that specific purposes, I would like to see that money just still used for ADA ramps, and we increase how many ADA ramps that we will be doing in this next year.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Wendell, or I don't know who can answer this, $68,000 will overlay how many lanes? Probably not lane miles, but how much would that cover, $68,000 in overlay?
Not very much, actually. I don't have a number for you, but.
Probably just in front of my house?
Probably a little bit further than that, but.
Okay, but it's short is what I'm trying to get. It's not
Yes,
a major project.
It's a short number.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Just to answer your question, probably about one subdivision street with an overlay. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with much of what Councilmember Burton said. Not that the ADA ramps is an unworthy project or that the streets couldn't use another $68,500. For me, it's a transparency issue. These are funds that are earmarked for a specific purpose, and we're essentially funneling the money into one purpose to funnel it out of that purpose so that we can use the same amount of money somewhere else. So for me, it's a transparency issue. I'm not sure that this is the right thing to do. Now, transferring the money into ADA ramps is great. What the city, or what the staff does with the remaining money in the ADA ramps isn't part of this particular vote is the problem. So what they do with the rest of the money in that budget is a budget question. And so I'm not sure exactly where that leaves us. But yes, I agree, it's a transparency issue, and the money is allocated specifically for one thing. Putting that money into that thing with other money is kind of, it muddies the waters for me. So that's what I have so far.
I think you've brought up some very good points, and the motion, I believe, should be that we immediately use this money for ADA ramps, and the 68.5 will need to come back to the council for direction as to where it's used. Councilmember Jacob.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll make that a second.
So we have a motion by Mayor Rolfe and a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Burton,
Yes.
Councilmember Newton,
Aye.
Mayor Rolfe,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Public hearing item 7C, receive public input regarding resolution 17-151 regarding additional funding recommendations from the West Jordan CDBG Home Community for the fiscal year 2017-2018 43rd Community Development Block Grant and Home Program. Chuck?
Great, thanks, Mayor. We'll keep this pretty short to the point. A couple months ago, we had the public hearing for the RCDBG recommendations. At that point in time, we didn't have the final allocation from HUD of what we was going to get, so we based it on last year's allocation, because of the continuing resolution that Congress had passed. We did end up getting a slight increase this year, about $13,545. We could have went ahead and just budgeted this money into the activities that we have, but since we was having the other public hearing tonight, I wanted to bring this to council for public comment also. So out of the $13,545 additional that we did get, we're asking for $5,000 for additional ADA ramps to go in with the previously approved for this year. $5,000 for our management and administrative software. What this will allow the CDBG program, while HUD will not allow us to become paperless because they're really hard and fast on keeping paper trails. But what this will allow us to do is to document all our contract payments, activities in the CDBG program, and that will allow the finance department and Bill Piper and them to track our finances closer. And then when the auditors come in, they'll be able to pull this software that we have, match up the invoices, and see the whole paper trail there without having to go pull physical copies of the paper and everything. And that's about $5,000 per year for that software and upkeep on that. And then the other $3,545, we just putting straight into program administration to help to reduce the cost to the city for CDBG management and everything. So the total improvements, if you can see it there, on the line items, increases admin from 104,000 to 112,545. That's still roughly $1,300 below the allowable amount that we can get from HUD. And then the 5,000 increase gives us another 33,241 for ADA curb cuts there. Any questions?
Questions from council? Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
I'll now open the public hearing for item 7C. If you're here to speak on this item, now would be the opportunity. Seeing no one, I will close public hearing on item 7C and return to the council. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. Because this looks like it's going right into the purposes of the CDBG, I would be in favor of this. So I would make a motion to approve as recommended by staff. I'm showing this chart for the amount of the 13,545 and the 5,000. I believe that's together. So the 13,545 is the total already.
And you're approving resolution 17-151?
That would be it. I'd like to approve resolution 17-151.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Burton, a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just looking at the staff report just for clarification. I did not see a resolution number on the staff report or a resolution for that matter in the staff report. Oh, there is one. Just kidding. It's at the end, not at the beginning. I apologize. I have nothing to say.
Let's vote.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Newton.
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
Public hearing item 7D. Receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 17-26, amending ordinance 01-34, removing zoning condition number 3 and number 8, CG, ZC, for property located at 935 South, 1300 West. Galvanized LLC, John Stevens, applicant. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. This came before us about a month or so ago, perhaps a little longer than that. Anyway, and it was turned down, and then as I had obtained some additional information, I brought it back up for reconsideration. I appreciate the council bringing that up. And so today we are reconsidering this, so I would like to continue this public hearing from where it began before. So with your permission, I would like to just ask Scott Langford to bring us up to speed where we are at the state.
Scott?
Thank you. Just as a refresher, yes, the council did initially talk about this back in May. It's regarding the property you can see on the screen there, just off of 13th West and 90th South. A little bit of history. I don't have the full report in front of me, but going off of memory, when this general area was originally rezoned, there were a number of conditions, zoning conditions placed on the property, and you can see the list of conditions as they sit today. The practice nowadays is to not invoke specific zoning conditions, but rather just rely on the ordinances in the books. And so this is a little bit different than what we would do today, but you can see the list 1 through 9 of prohibited uses. The applicant is requesting to remove item number 3 and 8, or condition number 3 and number 8, so that they can move forward. The previous use on the property was a car wash, a self-service car wash. There was a deed restriction placed on that property that would not allow the building as it sits today to be used as a car wash. In addition to that legal deed restriction, there was I was told that there was concrete actually poured down the drain so that it could not physically be used as a car wash in the future. So the building's been vacant for a number of, well, at least over a year. And so this applicant is looking to use the property for an auto repair limited business. And I think I've covered most of the bases, but with that, I could field questions if needs be.
The one question I'd like to go a little further on, and perhaps we could turn to Attorney David Brickey on this one. He mentioned the zoning conditions. Can you tell me what the problem is and why we don't like to put zoning conditions on properties anymore?
Anytime a city puts a restriction on land use, you have to have a compelling reason. As time has progressed, certain conditions that were seen reasonable 10, 15 years later become much more difficult to defend in a courtroom. And at the present time, I can defend these restrictions, but I don't know that I could survive a review by a court who saw that as a restriction that's not reasonable.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Scott, so these zoning conditions, is that just on this parcel, or is it all the adjacent businesses as well?
The map, as you see right there, shows the zoning. It may not be as clear as it could be, but the zoning, the CG with the ZC in parentheses indicates that the zoning conditions apply to this entire commercial corner. So that's why if you look at, let's see, condition number 6 talks about gasoline or fuel storage cells, and it talks specifically about that Conoco that was existing at the time.
Right.
So you can see that those zoning conditions apply generally in that general commercial district on that corner.
And then the other question, Scott, that I had was, if the building by deed cannot be a future car wash, and it can't be any of those restrictions, there's really nothing that can be done. It's either use it for something else, even if it means taking some zoning conditions off, or it's scraping the building, in essence, right? I mean, there's not, it doesn't seem like there's many uses that you could do with that building.
It would be fairly limited, yeah.
Okay. And this still, the business still would keep vehicles inside, there wouldn't be overnight outside parking, right?
The applicant is here. I don't know the details of that business operation, so I would defer to him to answer that question.
Okay, and I don't know if that's now, but.
We open the public hearing.
Yeah, okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
We'll now open the public hearing for item 7D. If you're here to speak on this item, now's the opportunity.
Mayor Rolfe, Councilman, I'm the applicant, and just to answer your question, Councilman Anderson, if there's overnight parking, I think it's an unavoidable circumstance that we will have some overnight parking, because that is just typical for this type of business. For instance, if you go to any of the other competing businesses, such as Big O, Firestone, or Burt Brothers, you'll see that they have overnight parking as well. So back in June, when I met with Councilman Jacob, one of his concerns was possibly, or better yet, one of his recommendations was that I put up a wall on the southeast corner that could shield those other businesses from having to have any sort of, visual waste that they might experience when they are driving to and fro on that easement. So I volunteered to apply for that when if given the opportunity to do so. I do believe a 6-foot wall would probably mitigate any concern you might have with that. And likewise, I'd like to say that I would clear the vehicles off the lot every night if I could, but I think that would be quite impossible. So I do want to try to keep it to a minimum as much as possible. And I do intend to also make sure that there will be upwards of 10 to 12 bays and quite a bit of space, upwards of 10,500 feet that will be enclosed, where I can also store vehicles inside. There's also very adequate security systems that the building already has that I intend to maintain and possibly even upgrade. So I don't know whether or not there's any other objections by the other council members, but I'm happy to answer those questions.
Thank you.
Steve Jones, 3234 West, 6920 South. For quite a while now, the last umpteen weeks with the candidates and everything, we hear about economic development. This piece of property has been vacant for quite a while. One of the things that came out in the candidate meeting that was very prevalent was one of the comments that was made to me that stood out was part of economic development is making sure that the people you finally do get to come to the city stay to the city. And here we have a company that wants to come and be a part of this city, and it just seems like we're going out of our way to tie his hands. I've driven by this property many times. It's empty, and it's, in my limited opinion, it very much suits his needs. And why would we deny somebody that wants to come and bring vitality to this, especially this piece of this area right here, which seems to be in the decline? We're going to wait to see what happens at, like 70th South and Albertsons and Rite Aid and have those empty buildings for 10 and 15 years. I'd rather see the guy come in here and do a business and see if he can make it rather than just leave that piece empty. I think he has some viable options that he can do to mitigate for his neighbors and whatnot, and it's a very nice building, so it ought to be put to use. Thanks.
Thanks.
Good evening, I'm Wayne Niederhauser, and thank you for bringing this up again. After the meeting last time, I had an opportunity to go visit with John outside. I think the mayor made a great comment in our public hearing that it's best to have something there than to let that property sit and just create a blight in the neighborhood. But as you well know the history, there's a reason for those conditions. This is professional office space, and those uses are not real compatible. And the gentleman mentioned here that we need to make sure that we're fostering business in the community. Well, if we have incompatible uses next to our professional office, then that diminishes the value and the tenants that we're able to attract to our office. We try to do a good thing here in West Jordan. We spent a lot of money on some very class B+, A- buildings. We could have done something less than that. And we went forward and tried to do a professional thing. So John's been great. We met out there just recently and talked about how we could make it work together. And so at least I'd like to present to you for your consideration some things that maybe ought to be required, because I think there's a way for this to happen and have a win-win solution for both John and West Jordan Gateway Office Park. I've got an email, and Councilman Burton has been part of that email, so he knows exactly what it says, but essentially is what we think would be really good, and here's a pointer, I guess, right there, is there are a couple of accesses. One is really actually very dangerous, and it's that access right there. I have a little bit of a tremor, so sorry about that. Right there. So what happens is you got McDonald's garbage bin right there, and cars come through here, and I don't know how many occasions when cars have been either sideswiped there or really come close to it because there's no sight distance. And so what John and us agreed to, it's in the email, is that what we should do is just have them, we're okay and we're supportive of what John does. And with these conditions, if the council could agree to them, is we close off that access. It's going to create a safer situation for all the office park and all the egress and ingress. And then, in order, as you heard tonight, there are going to be cars there out in the evening, sometimes for days, and that's part of the business. There's at least agreement for him in that email that we would have a wall along the south and this east corner to shield those cars and so forth and what's going on in that area. And we also agreed that this here is probably not going to be advantageous to either of us, so the agreement is to close the two accesses and then have a wall built around that. Happy to answer any questions. That's what we've agreed to. I'm hoping that we can work that out and make that at least a condition, and it's a win-win for all of us at that point.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions for President Niederhauser?
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Just to add to Senator Niederhauser's commentary that we do intend to do that. We do intend to put a wall up. We do feel that that would be a suitable buffer for the businesses. And we intend to obviously have the ultimate choice in the materials and so forth to put that up. I do want to put a gate up on those two access points if at all possible, because I think that that's probably the most inexpensive way to get this done. And there might be times when we do need to enter in and out of there, but for the majority of the time, we do feel like those being closed off will help our business and help us, create a sense of privacy for ourselves and our clients. So, did I agree to it? Yes, I did send an email saying I do want to do this, but I also want to make it very well known because when I spoke to Larry Gardner weeks ago about it, already yet months ago when I first undertook this challenge, and that was, I mentioned, well, should we put a fence on it, Larry? And he seemed a little bit apprehensive about it. So I do think that I'm not aware of what planning and zoning is going to put as far as a restriction there, but I will do whatever the city will allow me to do when we draw up the plans, and I just want to defer to the city's better judgment as I put this in.
Just while you're there, if you don't mind, just
Sure.
so I understand, you're willing to put up a 6-foot fence that meets city code. You're just asking for 2 gates. It would be solid gates, but they'd be able to be opened at certain times.
Yes, sir, that is, pardon me, yes, Mayor, that is correct. And as far as how far this wall will go, it'll likely go from one gate to the other. Okay, so on the south perimeter, I'd like it to go from that smaller structure all the way over to the corner and up. Yeah, that's about where we're going to be, and I do believe that will appease all parties.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? Have a follow-up just to make, please take another moment.
So Chris McCandless, my partner, met with John, and I think we're going to be flexible with this. The agreement was that we may close off those accesses. A gate there, I think, as long as it's used on a limited basis, is in the spirit of what goes on there. But we just want to make sure it isn't like a gate to one of our garbage bins. That it's going to enhance and beautify and create that separation that needs to be separated between these two uses, so that, you know, we can maintain that professional atmosphere in our office park, and he can do what his work in his area. And so that wasn't a part of the discussion. It was it was a close off, but I think if we can make sure that wall is, you know, something like we have between the residential uses to the south of us, if we're talking about that kind of wall and a professional looking gate, I think that's in the spirit of the agreement, and I guess John could address it if there's a question about that. But we're trying to create that separation between two mostly incompatible uses. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will close the public hearing on item 7D and return to the council. Any motion that would be made, I would recommend that we add the language of a fence and gates that are approved by our planning department. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is for our city attorney, David Brickey. When we put those conditions, or how we put those conditions, are we turning those into conditional zoning again? Or is there a way we can do that so that we're not putting conditional zoning? Or what would your recommendation be on wording that?
Because it's a term and condition that is not part of the zoning requirements, it would be basically a gentleman's agreement between the two sides. I don't think the city should get in the practice of changing zoning requirements that then are linked to performance expectations that either one side or the other has to perform by a certain date. I suppose if you wanted to make certain that this happened, you could indicate to one party or the other, proceed forward with closing off the area, putting up the fence in good faith. The city will then change the zoning. But tonight, if that zoning change occurs and those two things don't happen, I think one party would have to sue the other for sort of a breach. And we'd probably get dragged into the lawsuit. But I don't see, at the present time, a process for integrating those two requests into this particular motion or request in front of the city council.
Thank you. And I want to thank the applicant and the neighbors for meeting together and working this out without having the city having to intervene. So thank you for taking the time and work together on that.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question for Scott, actually. I noticed in the CG zone, vehicle repair is a permitted use, limited. Lubrication, though, I don't see specifically called out as a use one way or the other. So would that fall under vehicle and equipment repair limited as a use?
Yes, it does. If you look at the definition for vehicle and equipment repair limited, it includes lube shops, tire shops, those types of things. So it's all inclusive.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure we weren't stepping on another toe as we try to step off of this one. Thank you.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Seeing no further comment, I'll go ahead and make the motion. Before I make the motion, I would like to express my appreciation to both the applicant and the neighbors for coming together and working on this, much like Councilmember Burton said. This is the way things should be done. Neighbors should be able to get together and shake hands and work it out. We shouldn't have to bring everything to court or bring everything to a city council or to a planning commission to get a ruling on what's okay and neener, I can do it and you can't stop me or whatever. So I very, very much appreciate the spirit of cooperation that was displayed in this. And with that, I am very happy to move that we approve ordinance 17-26, amending ordinance 01-34, removing zoning conditions 3 and 8 for the subject property.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, a second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I also just want to express my appreciation to the two parties, the office park owner and the facility at 9035 South, potential facility, for working together and coming up with something that is amenable to both. I hope that that continues. And so I just want to express my appreciation for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Newton?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Public hearing item 7E, receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 17-45 regarding a rezone of 7.91 acres from R10B, single-family residential 10,000 square foot lots zone, and 1.93 acres from R38, multifamily 8 units per acre maximum density zone to PF Public Facility Zone for West Jordan Park Arts Center rezone located at 7833 South, 1985 West, City of West Jordan. Applicant Scott Langford.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be brief with the potential construction of the cultural arts facility. You can see the general location. It came to our knowledge that a portion of that site was zoned R13. It used to be an old residence when the city purchased it back in the early 2000s. We didn't pursue rezoning the property to public facilities because parks are allowed in our residential zone, so it was never an issue. With this potential proposal moving forward, we're going to take the opportunity to clean up all the remaining residential zones in Veterans Memorial Park and make it all uniform and consistent, and ask the council to rezone the remaining residential zones to from the residential zones to the public facility zones, and again to hopefully move forward with this cultural arts facility. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council? Thanks, Scott. I'll now open the public hearing for item 7E. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, now would be the opportunity. Seeing no one, I'll return to the council. Councilmember Newton.
Mayor, move that we approve ordinance 17-45 as been explained and as it is here.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Newton, a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion? Councilmember Newton. Oh. Let's vote.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember Newton?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
Business item 8A. Update on major construction projects throughout the city. Wendell Rigby.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we have a number of major roadway and utility projects. I've asked that Dave Murphy come this evening and make a short presentation on those and answer any questions you have.
That one. Thank you. If you can go to the front of the slides. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to talk to you about capital projects. Just a few statistics before we get into the slides. Presently, right now, there are 2 active building projects, the Public Works facility and now the new Cultural Arts facility. Those 2 together are $35 million. And I'm just going to go quickly through these stats. They're not on the handouts, but I can give them to you on the weekly reports that you normally see as far as the project updates. Sewer projects, there's 7 active projects for $3 million. Water, there's 18 active projects, 4 completed projects, $8.1 million. Stormwater, 7 active projects, 1 completed, $14 million. Parks, 8 active projects, $1.5 million. Roads, 18 active projects, and the city portion, actually 20 active projects, 18 of which are city for $29.8 million, 2 bridges for $110 million with UDOT. We are actively participating inside that project with betterment agreements for some water and sewer pipeline upgrades through the bridge areas. So grand total 60 active projects, $91.4 million. Outside work by other agencies in the city is UDOT for $110 million, $201.4 million, 62 projects. Next slide. So new projects coming up and currently part of that active picture. 8600 South Bridge is a $12 million project located between 56 West and 60th West. This bridge will be a 3 to 4 lane roadway, major collector street, and will service the new recreation center once that is built. Looks like we're about a 2-year window to go ahead and get that constructed right now. We're in design and working through UDOT structures and the Mountain View Corridor team and coordinating with UDOT Region 2 on that project. There are various sources of funding that you will see in this project, some from the Salt Lake County funds, some city funds, and UDOT funds from Mountain View Corridor, as well as Wasatch Front Regional Council funds. That last $1 million from Wasatch Front Regional Council, we're going to try and supplant with state funding because we don't want to federalize the project necessarily because that will slow us down. So we're going to do a funding exchange with another project somewhere in the state to get other state funds for that last $1 million. So that's allowable under the rules, so we can transfer that money and play a little sleight of hand with that project funding, which is important to do so that we can keep on track on a time schedule and not have to jump through all the federal hoops. Jordan River Pedestrian Bridge, this is near Gardner Village on the north side. This one is just beginning. It's exiting concept development and entering into design right now. We also have a pathway project from the Jordan River Trail that's on the other side, the south side of the track station that has now been activated as well. Next slide. Oh, I got it. Never mind. This is just an overview of the current design that comes into the roundabout. And this is just the plan and profile. You'll notice with 8600 South Bridge here that we have, right in here, we have the Rocky Mountain Power wire that we have to potentially relocate. And we have 2 segments of that wire. We have wood poles and we have steel poles. The wood poles will be moved with the detention pond, and the steel poles, if they need to be moved, we still don't have a read on that full height yet underneath the bridge and over the bridge. That will be yet to be determined in the next couple of months on whether or not the steel pole move will be required. So we're still vetting some of the design issues there, and what we're doing is looking at the interplay between the girder height here and where we're left with height underneath the wire based on girder design with the bridge. So actively pursuing a way to avoid moving the steel poles. Other projects of note, this permit pending for the railroad crossing on 70th South between 48th Airport Road is still pending back in Omaha. This is the funding supplanted for the change order on 70th South for some of the paving. So timing-wise, this is actually working out rather well right now to have that suspended for about 6 months while funding builds up again. 5600 West, this bid is pending. It is over at UDOT Region 2. We have 1 more week vetting process to go through with Region 2, then it goes over to the complex. And I can talk about schedule when you want to ask questions on that one. 78 South widening, Airport Road. Funding is there, ready to go. Design is 95% complete on that airport segments. And if you'll recall, we're putting New Bingham Highway into a high D intersection just like Old Bingham Highway. And 78 South will go full 5 lanes through this segment by the businesses up past the Guard property and then to the west. Eastbound, westbound will be full movement on 78th, and we'll have basically a triple left situation here in the future where we'll have 1 left that can turn off here and 2 lefts that can turn off on Airport Road to get back on a New Bingham Highway. And traffic modeling works out really well with that configuration. Coming up in the future here too, there's going to be a major project on 13th West for widening coming in about 2 to 3 years. That's exiting the concept development years and entering into the design years as far as federal funds is concerned. This is the joint project with Taylorsville City, UDOT Region 2, and City of West Jordan. Total project funding there is about $12 million, so there's still another ask of federal funding coming down for this project on 13th. It affects all of the small segments of roadway that are incomplete on 1300 West that don't have curb gutter and sidewalk that need to be spot widened, and it fills in some of those sections that have been missing for years. Mountain View Corridor on 7800 South, Mountain View Corridor, major section between the Smith store and out to U111, 64, 6700 West. We have development currently completing quite a bit of south half. This 2.4 million will all go towards the north half widening. And we may even have development coming in with us on a couple of these parcels by the time we get there into full design and full build. And that's a couple years out still. Current projects, safe sidewalks. Right now we're doing 1 to 3 a year. We have the piece by Old Bingham Highway completed. Did you get my email, Councilmember Burton? Okay, great. Pavement management, we're currently out there about 2.2 to 2.5 million a year in our pavement management process to maintain about $1 billion in road assets out there. Developer reimbursements, we have a few of those that we have to pay out on old roads that were built on arterial and collector streets. Traffic signals design, we've had that discussion about roundabouts. We'll be bringing back the top priority intersections in the next couple of weeks and maybe the next month to discuss exactly which one will happen in priority. And Bangor bridges. Just so you're completely understand that project, they are on a time track on 70th to try to beat Black Friday, and they are pushed to the wall right now on schedule. They'll be right at that date. The closure on 70th will happen towards the end of the project in phase 3. That is going to be late September, October, and early November, 60 days. So they can complete the work underneath the bridge and some of our betterment work for the piping underneath the bridge. New projects in water, the bond authorization gives us the ability to go ahead immediately on 2 different sites with the attendant transmission piping that goes in and out of those sites. And I'll probably speak to the map here a little bit. The New Bingham Highway site is fully active. We're under property acquisition for that site right now. And we're also under property acquisition for the site that is the Zone 3. Which is this reservoir right here. That is inside the major development and housing development, commercial development behind Smith's, and we're moving ahead with that site acquisition. We've vetted about 1 site for the city, but the developers worked with us to go through about 5 different alternate sites. And that's been going on back and forth right now for the last 6 to 8 months, and we finally have a site that works for both the city and the developer. So you haven't seen that, but that's what's been going on. The next sites in play would be this site that's also under development pressure right here up in Zone 5. And that will require a new transmission line and a pump station here at our U111 site. And so once we're done with the $10 million bond, in the next sequence of 5 years, there will need to be some other bond behind that to do at least 2 additional reservoirs. So you'll have a total of 4 in 5 years. All right, questions that I can answer?
Thank you, Mayor. Dave, I could let you guess which slide I'm concerned about, but.
Sure. Tell me which one.
Do you want to pull it up, or should I tell you which one?
Go ahead. Ask.
It's the future projects, the one 1700 South, Mountain View Corridor area.
This one?
Yes, it's that one.
Okay.
Perfect. The picture in the frame here, which is lovely, and I'd love to hang it on my wall, is cuts off at Mountain View Corridor and 78th. My question is the plan between the roundabout and Mountain View Corridor, that horrible little pinch point that's right there. What's the timing on that one?
Same as the rest of this.
So
It's included.
in this?
It's included in this.
So not until 2021?
If sooner, if we can.
22, 23?
If sooner if we can. There's a funding question there, and the major question there is what we do with the substation and what we have to do with the substation. There's a Rocky Mountain Power substation in that pinch point, and we may have to ask them to step back and relocate some facilities. We think we can get by it, but it is a major pinch point as far as getting the roadway through and the curb gutter and sidewalk as we normally do through that section.
Right. I'm actually more concerned with the north side of the road.
Okay, I understand.
Where you go from 2 lanes to 1 lane. Coming the other way, it's 1 lane, 1 lane, 1 lane. It's not so much a pinch point.
That north side of the road is under current development, and that's your phase 1 commercial for the next property coming in. So that will be built with them.
Okay.
And that is probably the next year, from what I can tell from their development plans.
The northwest corner of the roundabout? Mm-hmm. That's the
yes,
Jensen
the Jensen piece, yes.
Does the Jensen property go past I don't think it goes past the power lines, does it? The east?
No.
No, stops it.
No.
The area between the power lines and the roundabout then that I'm actually concerned about. I believe it's Peterson property.
The city will fill that in as we work with the developer. So his design will include it, we'll probably pay for it, but it'll be included when he widens the street.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
David, the Gardner Village Bridge, is that a project that the council's approved before I was involved lately? Is that?
That is a federally funded project through TAP funds, and that is a pedestrian bridge. It's not the main bridge at 78th. It's actually a small pedestrian bridge that'll set off to the north of the vehicle bridge. And the reason that's there is there's a discontinuity of sidewalk that you don't have enough width over the vehicle bridge to put sidewalk there. It's unsafe. And so we did this as an ask of federal funds to go ahead and put the ped bridge in. And yes, it was approved before you were on the council.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome. Wendell, Jim?
We need a motion now to move to closed session, discussion of character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, strategy sessions to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation, strategy sessions to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of water right or water share, and adjourn from there.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Nichols, a second by Councilmember Newton. Discussion of the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Burton,
Yes.
Councilmember Newton. The vote passes 6 in favor.
Take a 5-minute break and meet in the administrative conference room.